Welcome to the AlzAuthors podcast. We're so glad you found us. We're the global community of authors writing about Alzheimer's and dementia from personal experience to light the way for others. I'm Marianne Sciucco, a registered nurse, author, and dementia daughter.
And I'm Christy Byrne-Yates, a licensed educational psychologist, dementia daughter, ALZ author, and coach focused on the sandwich generation. Please join us for bi-weekly episodes with our authors as we talk about their dementia journeys, sharing intimate details and painfully obtained knowledge to help others currently on that path.
We hope these stories offer you comfort and support as we strive to break the silence and stigma surrounding a dementia diagnosis.
May one of our authors speak to your experience.
This is the Whole Care Network. Helping you tell your story one podcast at a time. Content presented in the following podcast is for information purposes only. Views and opinions expressed in this podcast are solely those of the host and guest and may not represent the views and opinions of the Whole Care Network. Always consult with your physician for any medical advice, and always consult with your attorney for any legal advice. And thank you for listening to the Whole Care Network.
Hi, this is Vicki Tapia from AlzAuthors. If you're a caregiver looking for support on your dementia journey, please visit our website at alzauthors.com. You'll find hundreds of resources written by caregivers and professionals in Alzheimer's and dementia care to offer you knowledge, comfort, and guidance in an easily accessible format. That's alzauthors.com. Remember, you are not alone.
Let's get officially started, since we do have a nice crowd here today and it's after 2. I just want to say hello, everyone, and welcome to our very first film festival in celebration of AlzAuthors' 10th anniversary. It's hard to believe we've been doing this for 10 years. It started out as a 1-month project amongst strangers, and here we are 10 years later, and we have so many friends. So that's truly wonderful. Thank you for spending your precious time with us. I know how valuable it is. I'm Marianne Sciucco. I'm a founder and manager of AlzAuthors, the global community of authors writing about Alzheimer's and dementia from personal experience to light the way for others. And I'm the author of Blue Hydrangeas, an Alzheimer's love story, which is a novel based on my experiences. We have a terrific lineup of films to not only educate you about the realities of Alzheimer's and dementia, but to provide you with insider insights and strategies from filmmakers who have navigated their own dementia journeys. Our hope is that you will take away at least one piece of information or tip to ease your journey. Today, we're meeting with award-winning filmmaker Susie Singer Carter to discuss part 1 of her powerful docuseries, No Country for Old People, which is based on her harrowing experience with her mother's care in a 5-star nursing home in Los Angeles. Susie will share her family's dementia story, how she came to make her film, and what she's learned as a caregiver and filmmaker in this space. She's also an award-winning podcaster at Love Conquers Alls, which I suggest you listen to because you'll really enjoy it. And she produced the award-winning short film, My Mom and the Girl, which was also based on her caregiving experience with her mother. And it stars the unforgettable Valerie Harper in her final performance. So has everybody watched No Country for Old People?
Yes, all of it.
All of it. Oh, wow. So if you haven't watched it yet, you can catch it later. The link is good for the remainder of the film festival. So you have like the rest of the year to catch up on all these films.
I've just gotten to the first hour so far, so I haven't seen the whole thing yet.
Okay, well, we're talking about the first hour today, so that's great.
That's
We, at AlzAuthors, we like to see which far-flung places our participants are zooming in from. So please write your name and where you're from in the chat box. I have one member of my team here with me today, and that's Sheila Luna, who's visiting us from Arizona. She's one of our acquisitions editors. The acquisitions editors are the people who read the books and evaluate and review them and make sure they meet our criteria before we invite the author to join us. So I don't know if you know this, but we are very strict. And we accept about 60% of the books that come our way. So, hi, Sheila. Thanks for coming.
Hi. Hi, everybody.
There's a little bit of housekeeping here. The event is being recorded and it will be posted to our YouTube channel. And we will also produce it for our podcast, Untangling Alzheimer's and Dementia, which you can listen to on all the major sites like Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, Pandora, iHeartRadio, and more. And you'll also find it on our website, alzauthors.com. And you'll get an email when the replay becomes available. So check your email if you want to listen again or share with someone else or just to catch up on other things that have gone on in the past. We have like 150 episodes. Everyone should be muted. If you would like to speak or ask a question, please raise your hand or leave a message in the chat box. And I think we're ready, so let's get started. Welcome, Susie. It's so good to see you again. Thank you so much for sharing your film with us.
Thank you for sharing it with everybody. I appreciate it so much.
That's great. So, let's see let's go around and see it for those of you who have watched the film, the first part. Can you say in one word what was your impression? Let's say it in one word. Go around the room. So, who wants to go first?
Horrifying.
Horrifying.
Was
Okay.
eye-opening.
Okay. Anyone else? Oh, yep.
What I've seen of it, I haven't watched the entire film yet, but poignant, completely
Yeah.
poignant.
It's very poignant. Has anybody here, other than maybe having a loved one or somebody that you care for in a nursing home, has anybody worked in any of these facilities?
No. I was a long-term care ombudsman, and I also have worked for the Alzheimer's Association. I run a support group for people who have loved ones in long-term care. And I've also worked in nursing homes in the early 80s and 90s.
I have worked in
Also
such
a
facilities.
long-term care ombudsman for Area Agency on Aging in Arizona.
Mhm.
So I visit assisted living homes, not necessarily nursing homes, but we also do that as well.
Okay, and I was a nursing assistant and then a registered nurse and an LPN working in care homes myself back in the 1990s. It was a different world back then. So,
May I also
go
say,
ahead.
thank you. The word for the film for me is truth. And yes, I have worked in these facilities since the late 60s through the 90s up until recently. And I've seen all of that. And yes, amazing film and so important, honest, courageous.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's very courageous of you to do this because it's going against the grain, especially at this time and voices speaking out and it really had something that had to be said. So tell us a little bit about your background, Susie, and what prompted you to create this film.
Thank you. Well, I think everything that everyone just said prompted me to do this film because yeah, Mary, it's been going on for over 5 decades and the same issues. And if you get to episode 3, if you haven't seen it yet, you'll see me read from a book that was an expose back in the 70s. And it's as if I'm reading the same things that are happening today. And but I think that I learned so much because I had to figure out why I was having so much trouble advocating for my mom in this 5-star facility. And when I watched her go through this, I mean, by her side, I couldn't change the trajectory that she was on as hard as I tried. And I'm a nice person, I'm a smart person, I'm a loving person, I'm understanding, and I could not get any assistance that my mother needed. And she was suffering for no reason. So when I reached the end, I thought, if I don't share what I've been through, and I didn't want, this isn't something I wanted to do. This isn't something that I ever thought I would do, wanted to do, live in this bubble for the past 3 years. It's been painful. And, but if I didn't, I felt culpable. I felt irresponsible. I felt like I needed to share it, and I knew it was going to be hard. Thank God for my producer that came on with me, Rick Montcastle, who's a former federal prosecutor who couldn't be here today. But I mean, he gave me the courage to say what needed to be said, because he had been through it. Not only had he prosecuted pharmaceuticals, and he prosecuted nursing homes for over 2 decades, and he knew what was going on. And he assured me it was a systemic crisis that I was dealing with, and not just something specifically to my mom's facility or to my own personal experience. So, when I asked him, I had him as a guest on my podcast. When I asked him, what can we do as caregivers, as people that are not in the industry? And he was stumped. He said, I really wish I had an answer for you, but I don't. And the documentary kind of grew out of that need to figure out, how do we make a change already? How do we get the people galvanized and to understand and not get sucker punched like I was? And when you're in crisis, that's the worst time to make decisions. And you're scrambling just to, your bar starts lowering and lowering and lowering and lowering, because, well, I'll at least get her some fans in the room. I'll at least get her, where they won't, maybe they'll say good morning and they won't hate me. It's all those little things that, you should not have to barter for, right? So, Rick gave me the confidence and the courage to say to me, Susie, you are absolutely right. You should absolutely tell this story. It's so important. And I stand with you. And, that's really where it all came from. And it's been a journey. I mean, I was saying something to someone last night that one of my colleagues who's a writer, I feel like I've never been in the crossfire in a situation. I like to make, even with my film about Alzheimer's, that was what I called a joyous look at Alzheimer's, right? So I don't really like to cause conflict or to upset people. It's not my where I go, my comfort zone. I'm not shy, obviously, but it's not something where I live, and I've never been outspoken politically, and I didn't know that this was a political topic, but it is. It's turned out to be that, and I'm in the crossfires of it, and I've had to stand very strong and lead with my heart and try to touch people's humanity, because that's where I think that's what bonds us. It's just it's been a learning process, and and it continues to be. I mean, I get pushback on social all the time. Like, why didn't you take your mom out of there if she was being tortured? Why did you leave her there? And it was like, let me explain to you how it works when someone is has comorbidities and has high acuity, and they're on Medicaid, and Medicaid doesn't pay for home care, and you need at least 2 people to help you, and you don't have that. You need and it's actually safer for them to be supposedly where there are professionals that are supposed to be trained in taking care of your loved one. And so we shouldn't have to be in that situation where in order to save your loved one from suffering, from being tortured, you have to take them home where they're not going to get the kind of care that they deserve. So I get that pushback a lot with people that don't understand. What I hope that this documentary will do is educate people to understand that what I went through, what my mom and I went through, and that it isn't us, it's the system. And the system is designed this way. It has been. There are people that have gamed the system where there's a lot of money, you're going to have corruption. And when you have stigma and ageism and ableism are like actually ageism is the only ism that no one really looks at seriously. And you combine ageism with ableism, when you have someone with dementia or Alzheimer's, you have a lethal combination, because the industry at large, the healthcare industry, doesn't really understand dementia and Alzheimer's. Very few do. And so they're dismissed. They don't have a voice, and it's justified and validated and justified. And I'm sure everyone that is on here has advocated for somebody with dementia, with a cognitive deficiency, and it's brutal. It's brutal. If you watch the whole thing, my whole documentary, you'll see when they pushing my mom into hospice before she was ready to go, and the chaplain came in and said, "Don't worry about your mom. She has holes in her brain. She's demented. She doesn't know what's going on." And I was like, what planet have I arrived on? This woman is a chaplain. What does she know? What, you have holes in your brain, my dear. I mean, learn your craft. You're working with elders. I mean, the percentage of dementia is it's astounding. How do you not understand or have an understanding of just basic understanding of dementia and any kind of cognitive decline? So I saw it with the doctors. If you're not there at the hospital, which when my mom was going in and out of the hospital, it was during COVID, I was not allowed in. You don't have anyone to advocate. This is my mother's base. She has Alzheimer's. This is her base. They just assume they have failure to thrive. I remember calling and saying, "Could I speak to my mom? She was just admitted. She's Norma, of course. She's in room, da, da, da. Honey, she doesn't speak." I said, "I know she doesn't speak, but she will speak to me. She's scared. Can you please just put me on FaceTime with her?" So that's what you're up against. And so imagine if there's no advocate, what is going on, right?
Right.
So we have a broken system. We have a collective of our communities. We've lost our communities, what we have done, and we've lost the ability to tap into our humanity when it comes to our elders and our most vulnerable. And we too easily have allowed them to be warehoused. We've allowed them, and I take full responsibility for that, and I joke around. My mom and I used to, my mom's one of my favorite people in the whole world. We always joke like, don't worry about it. We're not dying. That's for other people. La 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 la. It's we don't want to look at it. It's hard. These are hard topics to look at. I get it. This documentary is not easy to watch. I get it, but it's so important to know what's out there and what's really happening. And we can only, look away so long, because it is equal opportunity. All of us, God willing, get older. All of us will be a caregiver or need caregiving, period. End of story. That's it.
So true. Virginia had her hand up. Virginia, would you like to say something?
I watched the first episode early this morning, and my partner is on Medicaid and is in a facility, and I go every single day during the main meal time, which is like 11 to 1. And every day, I don't know, I've missed maybe 3 or 4 days in 5 months, and I intend to continue to do that. And one of the things, I just panicked as I watched this, because I thought, I'm being so careful, I'm watching so carefully. They know I'm coming. And then I thought, yeah, at the usual time.
Right.
But then I went, after I watched it today, I was there again, and I was so weary, and and I think that he is getting good care. But I had to make the decision because I had no one other than myself. And now, surprise, surprise, 55% of caregivers have chronic health issues. And I am trying to repair all the things. There are only 3, but 3's enough, that I ignored or let go
Right.
while I was trying to care for him on my own. And then I hired somebody, for a few hours a week, but
It's not enough.
oh, nowhere near. And, lifting him on and yeah, it was overwhelming. I want to thank you for doing this. It is brave. I'm sure most of us are aware of the unbearable pushback that Bruce Willis's wife is now and family is dealing with. If you haven't been there, just shut up.
Yeah.
There's no way in hell you can truly understand.
Mhm.
And if you have been there, shut up unless you're talking to somebody who's dealing with exactly what you're dealing with.
Right.
I have had so many people, and then I'll shut up.
Okay.
Tell me, who read a book, who had a relative. You've seen one case, and it presents differently with everyone. The trajectory of decline is different with everyone. In our case, from the end of October of last year to just before Christmas, it was like falling off a cliff. And up until that time, the decline had been very gradual. And I run support groups for the Alzheimer's organization. I did the online training to do public education. I do both of those things. I'm on our walk committee, etc. I'm trying to spread this message in the way that I just stated. You've seen one case. Don't you dare assume that somebody has, I don't usually say dare, but has deserted someone when you think you would make a different decision, because there's no way you can know.
Right. Yeah, I think those comments come from people that are uneducated, that don't understand it, they don't know, they haven't lived it, they think they know it. Your mom raised you, why aren't you there for her? It's like you have no idea. Like, I was my mom's mother. I turned into her mother, and I was a joy for me to do it. It was an honor. it has nothing to do with that, you know. I couldn't love my mom more. Yeah. That's what I hope that this documentary will open people's eyes. I hope so. I know that those comments come from people that haven't watched it. So it, you know, Kitty, you had your hand up.
I was just going to comment that, so my sister and I put our mom in memory care because we were just overwhelmed at home, and we ended up taking her out after 5 weeks because of the disaster. It was like we're paying $8,000 for mom to sleep somewhere else at night because we're there so often to try and get things right. So we brought her back home, and even then I got pushback. Everybody was like, "No, you're making the big mistake. You couldn't do it before. You can't do it now." Not having seen the last two episodes yet, does the film address that? And are you feeling like you're getting pushback from people who are like, yeah, we talk about that. We talk about how this had to happen.
Yes, I do, because my mom had Alzheimer's for 16 years. I talk about that, and I say that she, you know, she had a nice nest egg, but it eventually runs out when it, you know, and like Virginia was saying, everybody's trajectory is different. My mom's was a very long goodbye, and others can be very quick. Hers was long, and she ran out of money, so she ended up being in Medicaid. I remember my brother, who was the power of attorney and I was her power, a conservator of person. He was like 3 months before she ran out of money. He said, "You better find a place for mom because she's got 3 months of money left." And I was like, "Oh God, okay," you know. And I was doing the film with Valerie Harper, and I was like, I had heard that this 5-star facility in Los Angeles was the best, and they had a 3-year waiting list, and they took Medicaid residents. And I went in and campaigned for my mom, and I promised, you know, screenings, and I promised I would play piano and entertain and do whatever it took. And I got her in there, and I was like, thank God, it's like the greatest thing I did. That's the best thing I ever did in my life, was get my mom in this place. I can sleep at night. I can sleep at night. I just was so happy. I thought, I've done it. I did it. And you know, Kitty, after my stepdad died, this was 8 years ago, my mom was having all, I call it, you know, what do you call it? Groundhog's Day. And so they were supposed to move into a new facility together. My mom was there for 2 weeks, and I literally had to pull her out of there. And that was the year she lived with me, because she was so unhappy. They did not take care of her, because my stepdad didn't have dementia. He had just, you know, his body was you know, falling apart, basically. He couldn't hear, he couldn't see well. My mom could hear and see well and walk and do everything. So she was his eyes and ears, he was the memory. And they made like one person together, which is fantastic. Well, when he was gone, she had no one watching out for her, you know, so I had to take her home. But then when it progresses, that's when it's actually dangerous to have her at home. It was, I didn't know I was just trading one danger for another, though. I didn't know that.
I'm so sorry that happened to you guys.
Thank you.
I'm really sorry. Another fallacy too is people often think once they find a care home and they entrust their person into that environment, that their caregiving days are over. And you're even more in the barrel, I think, then, because now you're fielding all the phone calls. Somebody still has to go in there and make sure things are getting done, because a lot of times things just don't get done in the care
Right.
home like they're supposed to, you know? And I mean, I cared for my stepfather. We had to have him go into like a memory care place. And thank God, I think that they did a pretty good job with him, but he was snowed all the time. And every time I
He
saw
was
him, snowed. He was
okay.
drugged. And every time I went
Yeah.
in there and he was not able to communicate with me at all. I don't even know if he knew I was there. But I knew that he was being, you know, physically cared for, but I think they over-medicated him. And I know that that was a huge problem for you. Can you talk about that?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that I was about to say, you know, the all the problems in nursing homes and long-term care, rehab centers, all stem from one thing, and that's understaffing.
Mm-hmm.
That is the cause for over medicating. That's the cause for neglect, for which manifests as UTIs and falls and pressure sores and all the things that should be and can be avoidable and actually are never events per CMS. They are never events. They don't get reported, most of them, because they just don't, because that, no one's overseeing that, but because they are never events. But it all comes down to understaffing, and the reason why these facilities are understaffed is because that is the business. Yes, Virginia, that's the business model, and the business model it has been in place and it is protected by a very powerful lobby, ACA and Leading Age, and they have pay millions and millions of dollars to keep everything status quo. They have for decades. They've bartered they have seats in our legislature, and that's why traditional advocacy has not worked, sadly, because people have so many great activists and advocates have put years and decades of time and of research and just sweat equity into advocating for change, for policy change, and simple policy changes. Just like I use this as an example, is that caregivers for compromise, the Essential Caregivers Act, is so obvious and so benign that you would think it would pass in a second. This all stems from COVID, when an essential caregiver or a family member wasn't allowed in, and this is for over a year and a half. We weren't allowed in to see our loved ones, and so many, there was 200,000 nursing home residents died during COVID, not because of COVID, but because of isolation.
Mm-hmm.
And they died before their time. And they died before their time because they were basically in solitary confinement because they were understaffed and they wouldn't let family members in. So back to this act, Essential Caregivers Act, it doesn't cost any more money. All they have to do is provide the same PPE that the facility, that the frontline providers have, and it actually will lighten the load because family members help.
Mm-hmm.
We lighten the load. It has gone all the way, and then it dies. It gets killed. It gets killed. And now they're back out there, this wonderful group of women and men who are trying to get it, looked at again. And it breaks my heart, because I think, I really feel like it's just platitude and it's performative, and nothing really gets, and if anything gets passed, there's no enforcement, there's no oversight. And so you're back at square one. And so that's why we really have to make a change on a cultural, collective, grassroots level. We have to demand it. The only currency that we have as a public is as a constituent. And we have to shame our politicians and let them know that we know how it goes. We know what the game is, and we're not going to take it. We can't stand by. It's inhumane. It's inhumane what's happening.
Mm-hmm. Virginia, did you have something else to add? No, said she had raised her hand.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the facility that my partner is in is, of course, understaffed. The turnover, not the nursing staff, but the turnover of CNAs and RCAs, et cetera, is like a revolving door.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I have felt compelled to do, in part because of, is to try to help. I mean, I do a lot of taking other residents and trying to soothe them when there are not enough staff in the room. And I'm I'm pretty good at it. They tease me that they're going to put me on the payroll, but of course they're not. And I wouldn't accept that level of pay. I'm doing it because I want to.
Right.
And I have started to ask to be taught to do things. I do understand with understaffing that there are some things that go to the bottom of the list. I mean, they're not responded to immediately. And in our case, one of the big things is Kirk, my partner, pulled his Foley out 3 times on 3 separate occasions. And the final time did just really bled and bled, etc. Ended up in the ER. And he now has a suprapubic catheter. And he's not pulling at it, but when the urine bag gets too full, it pulls and it causes pain.
Right.
So
right.
I have asked them to to let me watch one, do one. I don't know that I will teach one.
Right.
So that, because this is something I know I can do, but I want to do it correctly, and I don't want to make a mistake and there be a flood of urine on the floor because
No.
I didn't do it exactly properly. But so that I just raise that as, and I'm not the only person that's there a lot and that tries to help. And good for us, of course, but it shouldn't be as necessary as.
Right. Exactly.
You should not have to do that. You are, and yes, of course, good for all of us that go in and do that. I was going in and helping when my mom came out of the hospital when she had the pressure sore, and she was supposed to be turned every 2 hours, and it takes 2 people. You're supposed to do it with 2 people because it's dangerous to the CNA or the nurse to turn somebody by themselves.
Absolutely.
And B, it doesn't feel good on the resident, on your loved one. So, so I would go in there and help turn, and they'd ask me to. And then when I would tell the administration, listen, I know that you're understaffed, so I don't mind helping, but what's going on? Because this is before I ever talked to Rick Montcastle. I didn't know. But I knew that they were understaffed because the staff was telling me they were understaffed. And the administration said, we're not understaffed.
Oh.
We're not understaffed, So I was like, okay, but I'm seeing it with my eyes. Like the CNA told me, I got to hurry up. Can you help me? Because I left a man on the toilet and I don't want him to fall. And so, I mean, come on, the gaslighting is just extraordinary. And, but that is the business model, and it doesn't have to be that way. And when we hear that there's not enough money, when ALCA says, oh, well, minimum staffing, that'll bankrupt us. That'll bankrupt us. And then, what are we going to do? We're not going to have, what's going to happen to your loved ones? And it's like, oh, so either or, they either get tortured or we're going to throw them out. That's it. That's the 2 choices. No, let's get some transparency on where this money is going. And there is no transparency. That's the problem. You have these corporate entities that have a veil of privacy, which is ridiculous. And they're tunneling money out of these facilities. And it's exactly like criminal enterprise. It's money laundering. They have related parties. They have these related parties where they raise the prices on and pay themselves exorbitant amount of money while and bank on the fact that they're understaffing, bank on turnover. Where's Virginia? They bank on turnover. In most businesses, that's a liability. In this business, they like it because they can pay them minimum wage.
Right.
It shouldn't be this way.
Mm-mm.
It shouldn't be either or. I think Frank has a question.
Mhm.
I think that it is actually wider even than just simply people with dementia, because I think almost everybody that has somebody that's in some sort of extended care situation, a lot of these are the same issues. And I think also the issue is bigger than, I mean, I think it's the general public is pretty ignorant about what these things mean. I have a neighbor who was watching me while I was going through a lot of stuff with my folks, and um, she said, "Oh, well, you know, they're not living their best life." And I'm like, "Yeah, they're not." And a lot of other people are also not living their best life, but they are living their life to the best of their ability to do that. And I think that there is this thing of like, oh, well, if you have some kind of a impediment or problem, whether it's you're blind or you're demented, I mean, and a lot of people are kind of like, oh, then just, you know, toss them out. And
Exactly. That's
I think
ableism.
that
That's the definition of
so you have
ableism
this
right there.
general public bias against these people, and that they're kind of like an imposition on everybody, and that they cost a lot of money, and maybe it would be in everybody, including their best interest, for them not to be around anymore. And so that's why a lot of the stuff that you're seeing in these institutions is winked at often, because I think a lot of people are very dismissive. The flip side of it, in my opinion, is that um, almost everybody is going to have a loved person in some kind of an institution like this. And so it's not just white people or black people or rich people or poor people. Like everybody is more or less going to be confronting this sort of a thing. And so if there was a way to organize that, then you could have a powerful constituent of people that would be advocating. The people that are suffering are very weak and they cannot advocate for themselves. And that's part of the reason why these institutions are perpetuated like this.
Right. Right. Absolutely, Frank. It's why when we were halfway through this project, when we were developing it and producing it, and I said, we can't leave people without some direction, with some call to action. And that's why we just received our 501c3 for our movement called ROAR, which is Respect, Oversight, Advocacy, and Reform for Long-Term Care. And we've been, if you go to the website, you know, you can sign up to be a roarier and roar for those that don't have a voice. And you're absolutely right. It's equal opportunity. It doesn't matter if you have dementia, if you have Parkinson's, if you're absolutely just aging and you broke your hips and you're in, you know, and you got your full facilities, you're still going to be stigmatized. And because you are older and because you don't have the same value as people in the workforce. And that's just the facts. That's why going to court is so difficult, because there's the value that's placed on an elder person, you know, and so, and they know that, and the facilities know that. And if they do get a penalty, it's the cost of doing business. And so, and that's all built into their business model, and they have insurance and so on and so forth. So they're not really too worried about that. And we need to take the power back. We need to take that power back and become the customer, because right now the government is the customer, not the resident, right? And so if, you know, I'm hoping that this ROAR movement, you know, engages, galvanizes, stimulates, activates humans and of all ages before it's too late, because my children are going to inherit this problem. And it's because it's not going to go away if we don't do something about it. It's just not going to go away. It's too lucrative. It's billions and billions of dollars that these people are making off of the backs of our loved ones. And Frank, you know, the ageism is, it's so easy. We've gotten to this place where, you know, they're 80, they've lived their life, you know, or, you know, they're not living their best life, right? You know, who are you to say what their best life is? Because, and I literally loathe this question that I would get from hospice, you know, or from one of the what do you call it? The project manager, not project manager, the what's it called? Not project, it's a, I can't hear you, Susan.
Case manager,
Manager,
possibly.
thank you. Where they say, Susie, what do you think your mom would have wanted? What do you think she would want? And that question is so, it's ignorant, and I'll tell you why. When my mom was 60 and we'd go to visit my grandpa, and she would, you know, she was full Norma, and she'd be like, Susie, we'd walk out, she'd go, me in there? No. Right? She'd like, shoot me first. Don't ever put me in one of those places. And then you cut to 15 years later, 20 years later, while she's full-blown Alzheimer's. And every day I would say to her, Mommy, how are you? How are you? I'd look in her eyes and she'd say, I am great. I'm alive. Life is good. And the alternative sucks. And her bar changed. You got to check in with them. A little girl who wants to be a princess at 10 years old, ask her at 20 what she wants to be. You know, you can't, people change, we change. And our bar changes. And maybe just seeing her daughter's face and her grandchildren's faces and that's enough. And a good meal and some music, and that's enough, because life is special and life is good. And she deserves to go when she wants to go, and not a day sooner.
Mm.
Just
Wow.
my opinion.
I agree. I agree with you. We had some comments in the chat. Linda, you had something. Did you want to add?
The one topic that is just, you know, my sister is in a place where she has her own apartment. So it's like senior living. It's a continuum of services there. So you can go there when everything is perfectly fine, and you can have, you know, a car and one meal a day. So you buy the apartment.
Right. I know those times. Yeah.
Yeah, one of those things. And then they have a rehab center as well as memory care. So when we moved my sister, she was in just mild cognitive impairment.
Right.
And when we finally just did not let her go back to her condo to be alone there. And that's when my husband and I took her here with us. My sister was raped by a neighbor in her condo complex, who showed up at her door at 9 o'clock at night and knocked at the door. And he said, it was so nice to meet you by the pool today. Did you try out those lotions I gave you? You know, my sister, sweet, you know, complete opposite of crabby, crusty Linda. And so my sister lets him in, and it happened. So that was probably on a Friday afternoon or maybe Saturday. And she was, no, it wasn't Saturday, because we were there Saturday. We went up there, and she just seemed really, really quiet. And, you know, she said, you know, can I come to your house? And I said, honey, you know what? You are coming. You're coming on Monday afternoon. You're coming. Because I still work. I teach. So I teach at a school near my home. And I said, I teach on Mondays, so Alex is going to come up and get you, that's my husband, and take you down, and you're going to stay with us. So I don't find out anything is up until Monday night because I said, don't forget to bring your calendar, because that's how we would keep track of everything. So I'm looking at her calendar, and on Saturday, it says, went to pool, I had fun, and then something bad. And she had an unhappy face there.
Mm.
So I'm sitting with her here at my house, and I said, Diane, what happened? And she said, I kept saying no, I kept saying no. And then, she told me everything. So now you're sitting there at like 8, 9 o'clock at night, and what do you do? So I quickly called the Alzheimer's hotline number, and they gave me some advice. And then I called a rape hotline number also, and they told me what I needed to do. You need to find a hospital that has a forensic nurse, all of that kind of stuff. So, I still think that some of my sister's behaviors, because now she's in the Alzheimer's stage, definitely, where she is combative. You all know the drill. And I'm wondering if some of that relates to,
Being raped.
you know what I'm thinking of here. I get nervous when I talk about it. Like traumatic stress disorder.
PTSD.
That people come near her, or, she has aides, 24-hour coverage, 3 shifts, somebody that stays there at night. When I go visit now, I have somebody stay at night also, and even sometimes during the day, because you get to 3 o'clock, it doesn't matter if it's still sunny out. 3 o'clock is 3 o'clock. It's like the witching hour. So, we're getting now, like her she has a couple doctors there. So we're starting to get well, have you thought about memory care? When she was hospitalized in January, and then she had to go to rehab. And so when she came home, she went to rehab in her location where she is, and she stayed in a room there. And so they would take her over to memory care, because they were trying to convince us, I guess, that would be a better setting for your sister. We have not done that yet. So, I mean, is that the pathway that these businesses, is that their goal?
Yeah.
Let's put you in here, and you can have an independent life, and they have a ball on New Year's Eve, and just all that stuff, and bands come and play, and
It's called buying the
and
lobby.
then
It's called buying the lobby. You buy.
what is
It's
it
called
called?
buying the lobby. You.
Oh, right, I remember that in the
Yeah, you
movie.
buy the lobby because it
Oh,
looks good. It's great. It's like
yeah.
happy. There's, like you said, there's
Mhm.
dances and there's this and there's that. And that's for very independent people. Like my
Yeah.
mom.
And she was doing it
Yeah,
all in the
they
beginning.
do. But it's a progressive disease. And so
Yeah.
you don't know when it's going to switch. And memory care,
Mhm.
unfortunately, memory care for the most part, and this is across the boards. So I'm not just throwing a weak veil over this. This is across the boards. It is a marketing tool. It's a marketing tool. It's not, it is easier on the facility. If they have a memory care within their facility of like where your sister's at, it's much easier to keep them on, like in my mom's other place, on the 3rd floor. And they're locked in there. And I remember my mom, this when I took her to my house, she walked in this place. And first of all, if anyone knows Al Power, you'll hear him talk about being locked in a room, in a area. Like any adult is going to be out of their mind that they're locked in. Why am I locked in? I'm not a prisoner. What's going on here, right? So we protect them to death is what we do. We don't give them, anybody that is locked in is going to want to escape. They want to escape. They don't want to be there. My mom, people were cutting, like they were doing like projects that you would do in preschool. My mom was like, what's going on here? Like they're cutting paper flowers. My mom was like, what's going on here? Where am I? This is crazy, right? Because it's one size fits all. Let's get it. We'll do a craft. We'll stick them in front of a movie, and then we'll get them to bed. And and that's all the time they have for them. And that's why most people look like zombies when you go into memory care, because they are over medicated, they are chemically restrained, and because they are, count how many people are in those memory cares. How many? This is exactly what happened to my partner Dawn's mom just the past couple months. She's in a place exactly like your sister. She doesn't have Alzheimer's, but she has Parkinson's, and she's starting to progress, and they recommended memory care. She was horrified, and now she has a pressure sore. She is not talking. She is mumbling. She went from 0 to 100 in a matter of a month. And that's just they're advertising a certain amount of care, but they're not delivering it. And we need to hold them accountable. We need to hold these places accountable. They're getting paid. If they can't do the job, then close your doors. Because it is torture, and it is warehousing, and it's unacceptable. It just is unacceptable. And people deserve to have better care, and they deserve to have dignity. They don't deserve to be told to go to the bathroom in their bed because there's not enough people. Don't worry, we'll clean it up. That's, of course, people die from failure to thrive. Who wants to live like that?
Right.
I don't.
Frank, did you have something
I would
to add?
say that I agree with you, but I would want to add a nuance to it, because my parents both had dementia, and they were being cared for in my brother's house. They never were in an institution, and they were completely furious that they were imprisoned in my brother's house. And he had full-time aides that were living with him.
Oh.
And so if my father wanted breakfast, he could have breakfast 12 times a day, all day. And but at the same time, he would just rail. He'd pull me aside and he'd say, "Get me out of here. This isn't my house. I don't belong here. What am I doing here?" They were, um, my mother refused to get out of a chair even when she needed to use the toilet. And so she would fight you if you wanted to take her to the bathroom. And so, I'm not going to defend those institutions. I think those institutions that are misusing people are completely egregious, and it's not fair, etc. But I will only say that it is not necessarily, even with the most well-intentioned and the most good resources, a lot of the things you're describing may well progress to that stage regardless of where they're located.
Can I just address that before you move on? Okay, because I don't know if you're familiar with Chipa Snow, people like that, and Judy Cornish, and people that have been studying dementia and the progression of it, and there are so many ways, and I'm not faulting your brother at all. That is the nature of the disease. The nature of the disease, if is that you're going to get, although it's very nuanced, Virginia, I agree with you, but there are some similarities where I want to go home. I want my car keys. You stole my car. All those things that are in my short film, right? But there are ways to circumvent it. There's ways that people that are taking care of people in memory care should understand, should be educated on how to redirect, on how to diffuse the situation. There are ways to do it. And I'm not saying it's easy, but it is what it is. And there are better ways. I was told your mom will never, you stop telling her that Georgie died because she's not going to remember. And I knew my mom was going to remember. And when she moved in with me and she would say, "Where's Georgie?" And I say, "Mommy, he died." "What? Nobody told me? Whoa, how dare you?" Right? And I'd say, "Mom, you were at the funeral." I was very consistent. I had like the memorial pamphlet, and I'd say every time she asked me, this went on for 2 weeks, and I'd go, "Mommy, you were there. This is the this is the memorial, the tribute we did." By 2 weeks later, she said, "Where's Georgie?" And I said, "Mom," and I gave her a second. It takes the time. You have to be patient. And she said, "He died?" I said, "He died." She never asked me again. And I'm not saying that happens with everybody, but I'm saying there's ways to imprint them. There's ways but with a lot of patience. Of course it takes patience. Of course it does. And who better than the family to do that? I get that. But there's ways. If Judy Cornish was on here, she would tell you, like, she taught me so much. Like, I would go in and never, I'd cringe at the way I used to be with my mom. And I show it in my film where it's like, I say, "Mommy, where are you? Where do you live? Do you know where you're at?" And all those things, which are so just mean, just awful, and she, instead of making them guess, instead of feeling bad because they don't remember your name, walk in and go, "Hi, Mommy, it's your daughter, Susie. I'm here. Here I am, your favorite one. I know I'm your only one, but here I am," right? And then you see this big smile because she doesn't have to think about it. She's not agitated because she can't remember or embarrassed.
Well, you're right, but I mean, we were part of a therapy group for support group, and we had all of those tools of, my mother would do the same thing. She'd say, "I'm waiting for her own mother to show up," and we'd say, "She's in Florida right now. She'll call you when she's free. Oh, she's having difficulties. She's not going to show up this weekend," and it would put
Yes.
her off briefly. Um, or you'd have dinner options. Instead of saying, "What do you want for dinner?" We'd say, "Do you want spaghetti or do you want chicken?" And that allowed,
Exactly.
we were pretty well versed in a lot of the ways of how to manage it. Our therapy person used to call it therapeutic fiblets, that you'd go along with them of, like, whatever the issue was, and sort of steer them and direct them so that they could feel comfortable and secure. But there would be times when my father would just look at me and he'd say, "This is not my house." And he
Yes.
knew in some weird way, but we had literally taken everything from their house and recreated it in my brother's house. So it was their
You're a
dining room
good
table, it was
son. You're a
their
good son.
paintings on the walls, it was their
Yes,
dishes.
I know
And
that.
my
Yes.
father would say, "I know these look a lot like my dishes. And I know this looks like, but there's another house in another town where I
Yes.
belong." And, and
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. It's not an easy disease. We all
But
know that here. It is not
I'm
easy.
just saying that you should not. I mean, I don't know that I'm sure there are many well-intentioned AIDS people in these organizations, and there's awful ones.
Oh, yeah.
But it
Oh,
is, I
yeah.
think, given the nature of the disease, that you can't blame yourself that you've put your person into a facility and then suddenly they're completely disoriented and they're angry, because it is part of the disease.
It is part of the disease. All I'm saying is that they are massively understaffed in
Oh,
these
yeah.
facilities,
No,
that
absolutely.
and that they are also undertrained. So that's why they resort to drugs and opiates. And and so that no one's going to say it's not easy. That it's hard. I mean, I remember going and visiting my mom before she was on Medicaid it's a facility in Los Angeles. It's all memory care. And there was one gentleman, there's this, you always hear this, like not, he was just frustrated, and he was an older gentleman who used to be an Auschwitz survivor. He was an Auschwitz survivor, and he'd say, "I want to go home. I want to go home. I want to go home. I want to go home," all the time, right? He'd just say it over and over again. So I go up to him and I say, "Ben, you want to go home?" or because I said, I don't want you to go home. I love you. I love you too. I love you too. You know, I'm not saying that's going to help everybody, but there's ways to try to, you know, diffuse and reach somebody, you know, through love. Love is super powerful, I think. I think it's our greatest tool. So, and I don't say it's easy. I'm just saying if you're going to open a facility, you got to do the work. You got to do the job. You can't let people, if your mom was going to go when pee pee in the chair, they got to figure out a way to not let her pee pee in the chair because it's not healthy. Right. So they got, and that's what they do. That's their job. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you. Mary, did you have something to add?
I totally take to heart what Susie and Frank just talked about. I find interesting that in Frank, in your film, the redirecting and the opening up to music was something that everyone can do, even if they don't sing the songs or dancing. They were together dancing, which was so wonderful. But that redirecting, that being creative, that thinking of what can I say or do, even in the latest stages, just putting music on, just doing things creatively, because I say that because that's where I come from, using the arts for connection and communication. But watching in your movie how they sang to each other and danced with each other. And maybe they didn't want to do that all the time, but just talk about the paintings on the wall. There's always something we can do. And then towards the very end, we can just be there holding their hands. And every situation is different. But I loved how you illustrated to people that music can be
Magic. Yeah,
magical.
music was my key with my mom. Absolutely.
It's one of the easiest things to do, even if they're not singing, just to hear it. It's one of the easiest accessible arts to
Powerful and
present it.
powerful.
Powerful.
My mom, I learned
Absolutely.
from when I was doing, I volunteered at the Alzheimer's Association when I was working on my other film here in Los Angeles. And one of the things I learned was that when you ask someone with Alzheimer's or dementia a question, wait 20 seconds, give them 20 seconds at least to answer. 20 seconds it feels really long, right? But it really came in handy because when my mom was starting to lose her ability to verbalize, I would see her look up to the side because and I would say, "You looking for words?" I go, what do you got to say to me? And she'd look up there and look. And I go, I'm waiting. I got all day. Go do your thing. I'm waiting for the words, you know? One day she just stopped and she looked at me. She hadn't talked in 3 months. She said, I love you so much, out of nowhere. And I was like, I thought that was the gift. I said, you just ran a marathon. How hard was that for her to get that out? I think about it all the time. I think about the fact that she originated it in her part of the brain that's still working, got it down to the mouth, didn't forget why it was there, and got it out. And she sounded like my mommy. And that just takes patience. And also that was just a gift she gave me.
Virginia, did you have one thing to say before we wrap it up?
Oh, no, I think this is a good wrap up play.
Okay.
But I want to thank you for doing this.
You're welcome.
For both the films, but also the discussion, because caretakers are as isolated often as those for whom they care, regardless of the setting that those people are in. and everybody says, oh, I'll help, I'll help, I'll help. But that's not really the way it works. People want to help on their schedule as it is convenient, and they certainly don't want to hear you talk about how on a frequent basis, the difficulties you are having coping in at so many levels.
Yeah. And unless they've been through it, they can't possibly understand it or believe it. That's also the other issue. People don't believe it.
They don't believe it.
Yeah.
It's true.
They think you're exaggerating.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got that with the nursing home a lot. Like, I think people behind my back were probably going, Susie's over. She needs to relax. She needs to go somewhere. She's like, cuckoo.
Oh my God.
So thank you, Rick Moncastle, for validating my sanity or what's left of it.
Well, I think about everybody here can validate, what your experience was, because I think a lot of us have been there and been eyewitnesses and participants.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I'm in friendly land. I'm in friendly
friendly
land here.
land. Yeah, friends.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
sad.
Thank you so much, Marianne, for doing this. This is great. And, please share this documentary with other people. It's so important. It's not, I tell people, documentaries are not money makers. They are change makers at best. And that's all I can hope for. And that's really what I wish. And it's my purpose, I think. And, it'll honor my mother and it honors you guys for all being in this space too. So thank you for being who you are, because I couldn't do it without you. And it's a lot. It's a lot. It means a lot.
Thank you so much. All right. So thank you everyone for participating in our first film festival. And I don't know if you realize that 4 of our filmmakers were on this panel. So you kind of got a preview. We have Mary Crescenzo with Planet A and Frank Silverstein with Lousy, Loving the Time of Dementia, and Kitty Norton with Wine, Women, and Dementia. So thank you all for coming. Please join us on October 6th. We do this again with Frank and his short film, Lousy, Loving the Time of Dementia, which was originally called Lousy, and somebody said to him, you don't want to call your film Lousy. So he came up with the subtitle, Love in the Time of Dementia. And Frank is a veteran television producer and captured random situations with his parents, both of whom had dementia, with his iPhone while visiting them to demonstrate what goes on in these situations, giving a glimpse into the realities of life with dementia. So be sure to watch the film prior to the discussion.
Watch yours now, because I've watched everybody's, but yours, Frank. So I'm really looking forward to it, especially the music. And and we're from the same industry, so
yeah, and it's short. It's just 15 minutes. So if you made it here, then you should have all the links to the films and the film discussions. But we'll send them out again on or before October 6th, so you don't miss anything. All the information on the film festival is on our website, AlzAuthors.com. To be first to know everything AlzAuthors, please consider subscribing to our mailing list. We send out a bi-weekly newsletter, and you'll learn about the latest authors, podcasts, special events, and more, because our foundation is books. So if you're a reader, we can help you find exactly the books that you're looking for. Visit our blog, podcast, and shop at alzauthors.com. We have more resources for you. And we've got some lovely gifts for caregivers, including our books and our poetry anthology, as well as some branded clothing and accessories to show your support. And you can follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, LinkedIn, Pinterest, and Blue Sky, where we share a wealth of resources for your journey every day. So remember, you are not alone. One can sing a lonely song, but we chose to form a choir and create harmony. Thank you so much for being here.
That's lovely.
So beautiful.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to Untangling Alzheimer's and Dementia, an AlzAuthors podcast. For more details on this episode, please see the show notes. If you enjoyed the podcast, please leave a review and subscribe to it on whichever platform you use to listen to your favorite podcasts. For more information on AlzAuthors, please visit alzauthors.com. While you're there, be sure to browse our online bookstore, where you will find hundreds of carefully vetted books on Alzheimer's and dementia. You can also find us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Please email your thoughts on the podcast to alzauthors@gmail.com. We are a 501c3 charitable organization, totally reliant on donations to do what we do. If our authors' stories move you, please consider contributing to our cause. Remember, you are not alone. One can sing a lonely song, but we chose to form a choir and create harmony. Hi, it's Marianne with exciting news. AlzAuthors has published a brand new anthology, Poetry for the Dementia Journey, now available in ebook and paperback through Amazon. Within its pages, you'll discover a variety of voices writing about the diversity of dementia care experiences, caring for a mother or father or spouse, witnessing the decline of a sibling, reflections on the time before the diagnosis, the years of care, and the aftermath. Poetry provides us with a meaningful way to explore our experience and emotions regarding dementia and to express ourselves when we encounter the many different joys and dilemmas caregiving can bring. You'll find details on how to order the book in the show notes. Please remember to leave a review on the book sales page once you've read it. Reviews do help boost a book's visibility and helps readers find it. Thank you for your support of our efforts to erase the silence and stigma that often accompany a dementia diagnosis.